So thank you very much, Zimbabwe. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. This is the program that we have just come together in order for Zimbabweans to enlighten each other in as far as the education system in our country. We are coming together with fellow educationists to highlight the conditions of services within Zimbabwe's personnel, in particular the teachers. And also, if we would want to remember, in September 2015, the government of Zimbabwe, through the Ministry of Education, brought about what they called a continuous assessment of teaching activity. That was to make sure that they change the curriculum of the students, both in primary and secondary education, in order to align the education system to the global education system. And it was actually meant in order also to make sure that our students and children are going to not have problems in as far as securing employment, getting into different professions, as well as getting into different business practice across the country, across the world, and even in the region, Southern African Development Community. To enlighten us on the program of the continuous assessment learning activity, we have our guest speaker, who is a trade unionist, an educationist, who has been getting into the education practices of the country for quite a long period of time. Is also recognized in the whole region of the Southern African Development Community. I'm not going to be taking much of my time, but to give this opportunity to Dr. Takavafira Zhou, who is going to be deliberating on the subject of discussion today. Dr. Takavafira Zhou, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am very happy to join you and discuss a pertinent issue in the education system in terms of continuous assessment learning areas in the education system in Zimbabwe. Thank you, and I'll be happy to entertain your questions that may need clarification from us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zhou. The first question that I would have for you is the review or the need for the implementation of this CALA, and what does it entail? What are the pros and cons of continuous assessment?
Thank you very much. The whole essence is that there was a new curriculum. It is called by several names. The ministry term says updated curriculum, although there is nothing updated. It was introduced in 2015, and its lifespan expired in 2022. So we're already behind the timelines in terms of review of the curriculum. So the review was supposed to start in 2022. However, the ministry announced that it has started the review in 2023. The way the review is done is shambolic, and mostly the review has been done by the ministry in terms of the head office, perhaps provincial officials and district officials. But in terms of engagement of the actual implementers, in terms of engagement of the parents, in terms of the engagement of the learners, there has been very little engagement. I can tell you up to now that we have not had a chance to engage the ministry as as teacher unions. We have only managed to engage on the 23rd and the 24th, but that time is too little, too limited for a meaningful engagement, particularly with teacher unions. So the whole essence is that in the same spirit that the curriculum was defective from 2015 to 2022, it was designed by head office and forced upon teachers, is the same process that is happening now, because the review is driven from head office, and the questions that are guiding the review are leading questions with answers, and it would seem that the whole process is complete, and all what the ministry is looking for is just rubber stamping by teachers, by parents and students, but there are no open-ended questions that would call for interrogation and meaningful suggestion from parents, teachers, as well as learners. So that's the tragedy, that it seems that we are dealing with a fait accompli, or registering something which is already completed, and without broad consultation and engagement, but merely tailor-made to rubber stamp decisions that have already been taken from offices by the ministry officials.
Right. Dr. Takaba Fira Zhou, I want to come to you, especially in as far as the preparedness of our teachers, because definitely they are the ones who are supposed to be conducting all this. And also, I would want to highlight, to inquire from you in as far as the material and the resources that are going to be used, because this is a system that is going to be used across the country, both in the urban and rural areas. Are the parents well equipped in as far as the resources are concerned? Are they also knowledgeable in as far as assisting the children in order for the children to attain the 30% mark, which is intended to be achieved by the end of the review? Thank you.
The major challenge is that, as I said, the whole regime of CALA is based on wrong principle that intelligence resides at head office or at Ministry of Education officials. That's a dangerous intelligence. As much as we are aware that there are officials occupying big offices at head office, provincial offices, district offices, knowledge does not come through osmosis or through occupation of a big office, and then you necessarily think big. So the most important aspect is, what is this CALA? Before we go anywhere, what is CALA? CALA is continuous assessment of learning areas. So the most important aspect, that the current regime of CALA is a burden to the students, to the teachers, to the parents, because there are too many in the first place. One, they are not timetabled, and there are also too many. While they constitute 30%, They are occupying almost 90% of the students' time. So as such, students have not been able to do the CALA. And the students will not be able to do the CALA if they remain in the current form. Students therefore had to hire some other people to do the CALA for them. So you find that if a student is doing 10 subjects, you are required to do more than 50 CALAs. Even a university student is not doing that. So ultimately, the concept of CALA is an attempt to marry theory and practice and ensure that our students do not only learn theory, but they learn practice or skills that would help them in life, or life-saving skills. But the whole way in which colors have become a burden, there are too many. They are not imparting any skills to students. So our challenge is that we need, in the first place, to ensure that the colors are meaningful and they are imparting skills. The only way they can be meaningful is that we reduce the number of colors. For example, at primary, it would be prudent to reduce the colors to 4, so that the students at grade 6, they can do 2 colors. At grade 7, they can do 2 colors. In that way, the colors would be manageable, so that they can also, the teachers can at least guide the students to do the color and try to ensure that the colors are imparting the skills at all level. At most, we must do 8 colors, so that at Form 3, students can do 4. At Form 4, they can do 4, so that the colors are not burdensome, so that the students and parents and teachers are not overburdened and they end up looking for other people to do the color for them, because this color must help the students. They are a component of practical skills that must be gained by students. As long as the colors are too many, they would not impart skill to the students, because the students and parents, because the parents are ill prepared, they don't have material, they end up hiring teachers. Remember, we have teachers that are not employed. They have now become innovative and they are doing the colors for the students. So in this way, the colors will not impart any skills. And that's why our education system continues to leak. But really, skills cannot leak if we develop skills in students. The skills can be seen with the students exposing or showing the skills. The color also must be relevant, because, for example, if we want to develop musical skills, we must test the student while the student is singing or playing a guitar. And we can assess the voice projection, the ability to play the rhythm, the bass, and the like. So that way, the color will be relevant. But our current color would demand that a student at primary school write about 5 to 8 typed pages in English. If that student is bad in English but good in music, that student would fail. Even experts like Maches would fail CALA in Zimbabwe at primary level, because they cannot write good English in 8 pages, but is a good artist who is playing music that is entertaining our students. So the challenge with our CALA is that it is monolithic. It's like a competition where every animal must climb a tree. There are animals that can climb a tree. There are other animals that cannot climb a tree. So the whole aspect of quantity of the color, the whole aspect of relevance, the whole aspect of imparting skills are important aspects. In their current form, colors are a burden to the parents who do not have money, to the teachers who do not have time, to the students who do not also have time, because this color is not timetabled. There are students who are committing suicide. Teachers do not have the time. They are scavenging for food most of the time, and they're ill prepared to impart such skill to the student. So there are all lots of things that need to be put appropriate. If you look at the assessment, only question 161 and 62 are relevant to CALA. But those questions are not looking at the relevance of the CALA. They are not looking at imparting skills. They are not looking at the quantity of CALA. So our whole review is irrelevant in our view as educationists. And the greatest tragedy is that those who are presiding over assessment of the CALA lack educational taxonomy, and they don't know where they are driving us. They simply think that if they are education officials, then they know everything. They are the alpha and omega. But the whole questions of the review, particularly with relevance to CALA, are irrelevant because they are not looking at the quality, quantity, skills, relevance, and everything is reduced to writing in English, and that is not the way to test the skills among our people. You don't necessarily have to express in good English in order to play a guitar, in order to be a musician. So those are some of our submissions that against the current form in which we have a questionnaire that already have answers from the offices, and we are simply picking from the answers provided by the education officials. Would have wanted a situation where the review is open and students can give input with relevance to continuous areas of learning assessment without necessarily the answers given from offices or from head office or from desk research. So those are some of our submissions that the current form of assessment is not adequate and appropriate to the review that we want to impart to the current education system in Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zhou. I have two questions for you. The first one goes to the government. If you are going to put yourself in their situation, what's their intention of introducing these colors? What do you think they hoped to achieve? In that same respect, who is supposed to benefit from these colors, or is anybody benefiting from these colors? And then the second question is on plagiarism, which you have already mentioned, to say a child is expected to write 6, 7, 8 pages of good English, and they are not able, they will find somebody to do it for them. So who are we guarding against plagiarism, or students are just being graded according to someone else's intellectual ability, but they get the benefit? Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. I think let me look at the first question. The beneficiary of the CALA system. I think mostly government want to give an impression that they are doing something. So they want to give an impression that they are doing something new in almost every area. But realistically, there is an attempt also to use the education system for political expedience. If you look at the current CALA, there is emphasis on physical education. There is also emphasis on, there's a lot of emphasis on obedience, and the must display, physical education must display. This is one thing, but it comes in various forms. But that way is an attempt of indoctrination. And remember, apart from physical education must display, we also had the issue of a national pledge. And the whole essence is trying to drive what they intend to call an obedient citizenry. And that aspect of loyalty to the country, you really wonder where their own children, particularly the politicians' children, would give loyalty to the country because we are aware that they are learning outside and they don't have some of these must display physical education. But the whole essence is tailor-made to ensure that we drive a rigid system that lacks critical analysis and does not benefit the student. So in essence, curriculum review must benefit the student. But the challenge that we have is that politicians are driving the review with an intention of ensuring that there is loyalty of citizens and not necessarily critical analysis. And a country will not develop without critical analysis, without freedom of speech and freedom after expression, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom after expression. And only through a critical analysis and even also a review of the government policies by critics would we ensure that we have a credible education system. So we are not necessarily focusing on students because the students are not beneficiaries from the system. The system is overburdening them. We can't do away with plagiarism as long as students are overburdened. So if we really want to do away with plagiarism, we must focus on our students so that the students benefit and ensure that the skills are developed by the students. But as long as students are writing 50 continuous assessment learning areas, they do not have that time. It's not timetabled. They will continue to hire other people, and the parents cannot also assist them. They will continue to pride in hiring other people so that their own students can produce good things, but that are not original from them, that are plagiarized from other people. So we have a crisis of people who are implementing new curriculum without listening to the educators. Because what we believe is that political leaders must listen to professional advice, and any reforms that come in the education system must be reforms that are informed by educational experts and not necessarily reforms tailor-made for political expedience. Reforms that must come in the education system must be reforms that benefit individual initiative and innovation by our students, that benefit skills from our students that they would use in their lifetime. But unfortunately, we are totally divorced from that. We want to be seen as introducing new things when we are not introducing anything else. The more things appear to change, the more things remain the same. So we have a challenge where political leaders are not listening to professional advice. And we have also a challenge where education is used as a control system to benefit political systems, and where education is not used to better the education system or to develop critical citizenry analysis and development of a country in order to ensure sustainable development. So as long as we introduce reforms with the intention of political expedience, with the intention of benefiting political appointees, we will not go anywhere.
Thank you very, very much. So, for those who are just joining us, I think you need to. Can you hear me, Dr. Amefa?
Yes, clearly.
Oh, okay, thank you. So I was saying, for those people who are just joining us for this program, we are joined by Dr. Tagawafira Zhou, a trade unionist and educationist who has been so instrumental in as far as the development of education in Zimbabwe. So we are having an understanding of how the program of continuous assessment to learning activity in Zimbabwe, which was introduced in 2015, how the government has been making some review in as far as the feasibility of the project and how students are going to be benefiting from that. Are teachers in Zimbabwe going to be having the capability to make sure that they get all the expertise, and is the government well prepared in as far as this whole project is concerned? So now coming back to you, Dr. Zhou, My question, I've got two questions. The first one is to do with you as an organization and as a trade union. We have got a history of you guys from both the ATUs and PTUZ being labeled as an enemy of the government. And that having been said, how has the government been accepting or taking your advice in as far as the initial project of CALA? And are your proposals being accepted, or they are just taking them for all that they want, their ultimate objective? And the second question that I would want to ask you is to do with what is your take in as far as the caliber and a situation of education in Zimbabwe, if CALA is going to go ahead like it is, especially to do with the indoctrination of one political mantra by ZANU-PF? I'm saying this because of what I've seen, what the way in which the questions have been asked on the review program. It seems that they are intended to achieve a political or a narrative that they want. Back to you, Dr. Zhou.
We have now built a united front as teacher unions. Just 2 days ago, we had a meeting, and that meeting was convened at PTUZ head office in Harare. And that meeting was attended by all teacher unions and other trade unionists, and it was unfortunate that ZCTU did not attend. But if you look at the other federations, be it Zipukutsu, be it even in for Zhou, be it also even the other federations apart from ZCTU attended that meeting. The intention was to ensure that we unite parents and educationists in order to hammer the whole essence of the reforms that we want to see on CALA. The CALA, taking CALA as a novelty in the current form or totally rejecting it is not acceptable. So what we want is moderation of CALA so that it is appropriate in terms of our expectations of the development of education system. So we are convinced that we have rallied parents, we have rallied educationists, and there is a way to ensure that government cannot continue to ignore us. As much as government is acidic to professional advice, but we hope that if we take a united front as educationists and together with the parents and learners, there is no way a government can continue to ignore us. So yes, government has not been accepting our views, and government is pursuing a political expedience, and it has also been trying to take a parallel way of inviting what it calls teachers for ED, whatever it is. But we know that is not a teacher union. And they have been drumming on such teachers that they must support the curriculum review, irrespective of what review is in that curriculum review. But we hope that as educationists, we are united in Zimbabwe, that we want to see reforms. Even if you want to see the submissions made by PTUZ, the submissions made by ZIMTA, the submissions made by ARUTUs as individual unions, they are almost similar in terms of inappropriateness of current CALA. So we really hope that government has no way to continue to ignore us. Government must take professional advice. So as much as government is known for always pursuing political expedience, in this manner, if we unite parents, teachers, and other trade unionists, we really hope that we will be able to influence the outcome of the current review process, because what we are waiting for now is the final document on review, and we hope that the 2 days consultations were not enough. that there will be conferences thereafter to look at these aspects. So I think in terms of your number one question, I think we are geared to continue to ensure that the aspect of labeling us as the agents of regime change is not an issue to address. We must look at the intention of professional unions, the intention of teachers in ensuring that CALA must impart skills that would benefit the development.
I think we might have lost Dr. Zhou there. Dr. Gwekwere, can you hear him?
No. I think, Dr. Zhou, you can turn off your camera. It can improve your network.
Okay. In the meantime, until he comes back, Dr. Gwekwere, we might have completely lost him. But let's continue to have a review of what he has just said. And also, if you wanted to speak something to him in relation to the next question, but so far, on what Dr. Zhou has just said, what is your take, Dr. Gwekwere?
Thank you very much, Danford. My first concern is that the curriculum that was proposed and that's being reviewed is never had an intention to benefit the learners, but to give credit to the ones that created it. And my other concern is when parents and students have to hire somebody, people are already struggling. Now, if they have to
hire somebody, back
to you, Doctor.
Yes. Sorry, I did not get your question. My mic, there was an interruption. Can you come again?
Okay, let me ask you a question. I was just making a comment on what you have said, but I have a question for you. I know you have vast experience as an educator in high school, vast experience as an educator in teacher education, vast experience as an educator at university level. So I'm just wondering if there were any consultations that ran from the Ministry of Education through the teacher education programs to say, is anything in teacher education colleges in place that is related to CALA, or things are just thrown at school level? I'm not too sure.
Well, I want to tell you that the curriculum in the colleges in terms of training teachers has not changed. And there is virtually nothing relevant or related to CALA. And this has also been one of our major concerns, that in order to successfully implement CALA, we need also pre-service training and in-service training, so that the CALA is not alien to the teachers. But in teacher colleges, there is virtually nothing related to CALA. And remember, the training of teachers is under Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education, and the employment is then under Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. And one of our recommendations has always been that there is no need to have two ministries. We must integrate so that we have one ministry, but with the two departments, because it is oxymoronic for a ministry, another ministry to train teachers that will be employed by another ministry. The priorities of the two ministries are totally different. The in-service training is not warmed up to the implementation of CALA in schools. So this is part and parcel of some of the challenges in our education system. The reason why we have two ministries is simply because they want some of these Tom and Jigs to have places where they can be placed, and some of these people without even educational taxonomy. So it's shambolic because there is no the successful implementation of CALA is also dependent on having highly skilled and trained teachers, as well as motivated or well-paid teachers. But all those things are not looked into in terms of training, so that teachers are also imparted with the skills to implement CALA in schools. So you find that teachers are also learning even the equipment in terms of technology. They do not have those equipment in rural areas. Teachers are struggling. They can't even go on the internet. They can't even use their laptops. There is no electricity, etc. So some of these reforms that we're introducing also have a serious implementation problem in terms of the levels of differences of our schools in Zimbabwe. Some of our schools do not have infrastructure. Students are learning under a tree, so you want them to develop CALA that can be developed using laptops or technology, communication technology. It is when there is virtually no electricity in those areas. So we are not serious also even in terms of our planning and implementation of the education system.
Thank you very much. Denford, are you there? Okay. If he's not there, I'll proceed. Thank you for your comments, and I want to say I've learned quite a lot about CALA, and to me it becomes a very scary creature. Right. Last time we met, we were with Denford again. We were getting into conditions of service of teachers, because this CALA cannot be fully implemented or effectively implemented if the teachers' conditions in terms of service have not improved. Since the last time we spoke, I think it's been a year now. Has there been any improvement in the conditions of teachers in terms of staff development, in terms of remuneration and other incentives?
Thank you so much, Dr. Gwekwerere. Before I answer that question, I want to also at least elucidate on one of the important aspects of implementation of CALA, because that is also important. You cannot implement CALA without budgeting for CALA. Currently, even since 2015, there has not been a budget for implementation of that curriculum or updated curriculum. So it were parents that were funding workshops by teachers. And there was no standardization across the country, no interoperability. When teachers want to hold a workshop on CALA, you expect schools that are in rural areas where parents are not even paying much to fund that system. So one of the key conditions of curriculum review or successful implementation of curriculum is also funding by government. Yet there is a zero budget. And even now, the meetings that were conducted where teachers had to go and meet at certain places, they had to be funded by parents or by schools that are poor. So one condition is that we must budget for CALA. And the same applies also when it comes now to the conditions of service of teachers. The Dakar framework is very clear, where African countries agreed that the budget for the primary and secondary education must be above 20% of the total budget of the country. Our budget is still around 12% of the total budget. So apart from the aspect that we are using bonds that are not realistic money, but even that budget is far below the expected budget of a developmental budget for the education system in terms of the Dakar framework that agreed on 20% of the total budget. So the current the conditions of service, the salaries and conditions of service have continued to deteriorate in Zimbabwe. Currently, the basic salary of teachers is equivalent to 20 US dollars. 20 US dollars. That's the basic salary. If we remove the allowances, the basic salary is 20 US dollars. And you can imagine what is going to pension if teachers are earning a basic salary of 20 US dollars. So the conditions have continued to deteriorate. Teachers are virtually a laughing stock. They are becoming beggars. No one wants to be a teacher. Teaching must attract the best personnel in a country, and teachers must be the best paid. You can't have demoralized, angry, bitter personnel to implement a successful curriculum review in a country. So as long as teachers are wallowing in poverty, misery, we cannot also implement a successful curriculum review. We need also to look at the plight of teachers in terms of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in terms of intrinsic motivation, in terms of innovation, dynamism, and the willingness to continue to work. And those are absent from our current teachers. The preoccupation of our current teachers is scavenging for food. So the government must ensure that the plight of teachers is addressed, and all what teachers want is not very much. They want a basic salary of US 540. We were able to pay such a salary even from 1980. If you look at the teaching conditions, the salaries of teachers under Zingai Mtumbuka, under Fei Chung, and during the inclusive government, that was the salary that they were getting. And education also revived during Coltart's time. So as long as we have not also addressed that issue of motivation of teachers, it will be a pipe dream that we can impart skills to the students, because teachers are trying to sell Maputi bananas in order to balance their lives, in order also to ensure that they could possibly pay school fees for their own children. So that issue of conditions of service is a crucial issue that must be addressed by government as a matter of urgency. In fact, the current position, if nothing is done to pay a rescue package to government workers and teachers in particular, we don't foresee how teachers can continue to report for work this term, because they've reached a crisis level where there is need for a rescue package from government.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Zhou. Right. So we would want to thank you so much for the time that you have had. As we go to the end of our program, I have got the last question to you, Doctor. There was a moment in when the vice president of the country, is it Dr. Chiwengwa? I remember his title. So he was speaking about the issues to do with the nurses being the civil servants, and he spoke about the exodus of the civil servants from Zimbabwe, and that he equated to it as crime against humanity on those countries that will be receiving our civil servants. What is your comment as far as such issues that are being said by not only the vice president, but I think it is what the regime has got in its mind? Thank you.
I think that is the highest level of lunacy and irresponsibility. I think it's inconsiderate if there is any group of people that must be blamed for our current status of the civil servants, it is those who are in leadership. They are intransigent and irresponsible. All what civil servants want to do is to make a living. They are not slaves. They are workers. And workers' conditions of service must be fair. They are not asking for too much. They are asking simply for a living wage. And I will tell you that 99.99% of the current civil servants have mentally resigned, although they physically remain in their workplaces or workstations. That is a dangerous scenario for any profession. And the culprits are those in leadership, like Dr. Chiwenga, the vice president. The leaders have cornered the strategic resources of the country, be it lithium, be it platinum, chrome, gold, everything, diamonds, and they are looting, plundering, wrecking those resources for themselves and their families and their cartels. We can't actually, we want responsible leadership that would ensure that the resources of a country are shared by all the citizens of the country. But we have totally leaders that have lost responsibility, leaders that are engaged in primitive accumulation of wealth at the expense of the suffering of the people. So we don't condone such comments, and leaders must be criticized, and leaders must be brought on earth and ensure that the resources of the country are shared. Currently, lithium is mined by companies that are linked to these leaders. We have companies like Kuvimba that we are aware that it's owned by Tagure, and Tagure is connected with all our leaders in Zimbabwe, and they are looting almost lithium anyway in Zimbabwe for their own wives, their own kith and kins, and we can't condone that. Zimbabweans have suffered a lot. We can't continue to suffer 43 years after independence and continue to credit leaders that have lost their way. The revolution in Zimbabwe has lost its way. We need to realign the revolutionary spirit. The whole essence of the liberation struggle was not only to ensure that we jettisoned the white rulers. We wanted also to ensure that the conditions of Zimbabweans would improve. Be they white, be they black, the conditions, the livelihoods of Zimbabweans must improve. And that is a major fulfillment of the liberation struggle that must be achieved by any means necessary. We don't want to suffer in a land, in a country that had plenty resources. We want our resources to be tapped and harnessed for the benefit of all Zimbabweans, irrespective of their political affiliation. Zimbabwe belongs to all of us. We don't have first-class Zimbabweans and second-class Zimbabweans. It belongs to all of us, and we must rise and criticize leaders that they become responsible and ensure that we don't eat slogans. We want sustainable development of our country that would benefit all of us, including those who are unborn. We can't continue to borrow environmental capital from future generations with no prospects of paying back. We must ensure that the future also have benefits from the country. That's why we want our education system to prepare the future leaders of this country as the youth. The youth are the future investment, and we must invest in education system in order to ensure that our country will continue to grow.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zhou. I've learned a lot from your presentation, and the CALA curriculum leaves a lot to be desired, and the way we implement new initiatives in education still leaves a lot to be desired. And I still cry for the, terms and conditions of teachers, because it's really pathetic and it's a sad situation, yet everybody gets their beginning or their footing from the efforts of teachers. And I want to personally thank you for coming to this show. I want to personally thank you for continuing to fight for the rights of educationists, continuing to fight for as an environmentalist, continuing to fight as a trade unionist, and we hope that your efforts will yield results soon. We really hope we really hope so, and thank you once again. I yield back the mic to the other host, Danford.
Thank you, Dr. Gwekwerere. And I would want to just quickly take this opportunity to thank Dr. Takawafara Zhou for the time that we have just come to enlighten us on this otherwise confusing program that the government brought about in 2015. When I was doing my research about this program, I even inquired from the teachers, I inquired from the parents, I inquired from even the other Ministry of Education officials. When I had to seek answers from them, some of them would simply say they are not too sure about the genesis and where this program is taking Zimbabwe's education to. But we are happy to have people who are advocating for the proper quality and affordable education in Zimbabwe. In you, the trade unionist, we are happy that things are going to come right in Zimbabwe if we are going to be advocating for the future of our next generation. One thing that I've just learned from your submission is to do with the lack of preparedness, the deliberate lack of preparedness by the government, the intention of the government to really bend the system of education in Zimbabwe, and the ultimate result is the suffering of our children. What is going to be the future of our children? It means most of our people who are vulnerable, especially those who do not have resources to take their children to elite schools, to schools outside the country, they are going to be very, very unfortunate to have a very deplorable education. Lastly, I would want also to say that as long as we do not have the technological equipment that's supposed to be used for this CALA program, it seems there is nothing much that is going to be coming out of this program. So we need to continue fighting for this. I would want to end by saying that thank you very much to our YouTube listeners and viewers. We would want to thank our Change Radio viewers and listeners. Would want to also thank our ZimI listeners and viewers, as well as our Facebook stakeholders. Until we meet again next week, I would want to quickly give this opportunity to Dr. Zhou. If you've got your last word, thank you. Dr. Zhou, do you have got anything that you want to speak before we close?
You are muted. Unmute, Dr. Zhou. Leo, please unmute Dr. Zhou.
Hello? Are you hearing me? Hello?
Hello, we now hear.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
I wanted to say our collective effort can only help Zimbabwe.
Hello, we now.
Yeah, my last short is that our collective effort or collective effort of Zimbabweans can make Zimbabwe better. And we must continue to deliberate, continue to contribute meaningful for the development of Zimbabwe.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And until we meet again next week for yet another program that we would want to enlighten our Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe, across the region in Africa and world over, we would want to say thank you very much. Bye for now.
Thank you.